I am Kyro. At Than High, my name is synonymous with trouble. It's not that I enjoy causing problems, I just despise weakness. Anyone who dares to show weakness in front of me will be crushed. That's my rule for survival, and it's why I became the apex predator here. Everyone calls me crazy, a tyrant. I don't care as long as it's entertaining. But lately, life has become dull. The big shots in school flinch the moment they see me, losing all will to fight. They're 2 weeks so weak that I can't even be bothered to lift a finger. I need something new, an exquisite, fragile toy, something that can reawaken the dormant desire for conquest and destruction within me. And then, I met them. It was an early autumn day, the sun a pale gold. I was on my way to the rooftop for a nap when I passed the small garden behind the library, a secluded spot rarely visited. Suddenly, a clear yet trembling voice echoed from behind the rose bushes. I really can't accept it. Thank you. A sappy confession. I was about to sneer and walk away, but the other boy's voice was full of coercion. Baek Sun, don't pretend anymore. Everyone in school knows you're just an orphan adopted by the Liam family. What right do you have to refuse me? Oh, scene 2. I leaned lazily against the wall, peeking my head out. A girl with long black hair in a pristine white uniform was being cornered against the wall by a rich boy who looked utterly idiotic. That was Liam, the spoiled heir of one of the school's sponsors, notorious for throwing his weight around. But my attention was completely captivated by the girl, Baek Sun. She stood backlit, sun rays filtering through the leaves, casting a faint halo around her. Her skin was as white as porcelain, her eyes large and round like a deer's, dark and glistening, her long lashes trembling slightly. Her nose bridge was high and delicate, her cherry lips pressed tightly, radiating both a peculiar stubbornness and a strange pitifulness. She was exactly like a perfect porcelain doll, fragile, capable of shattering with the slightest impact. My heart, which I thought had long turned to stone, skipped a beat. A crazy thought flashed through my mind. I must asterisk have her. I must asterisk break that false arrogance, fill those clear eyes with tears, make her beg only me. I must leave my own marks all over that pristine white body. Liam, seeing her silence, became bolder, his filthy hand reaching for her beautiful face. Why aren't you saying anything? Did I hit a nerve? Be my girlfriend obediently, and I'll make sure you won't suffer any disadvantages. That's enough, I thought. I stepped out slowly, the crunch of my shoes on the dry gravel echoing oppressively. Liam, the spoiled brat, froze. He spun around, and when he saw me, his face went from red to ashen. Kyro. I didn't spare him a glance, my eyes fixed on Baek Sun. She looked up at me too, her eyes still holding a hint of panic, but deep within there was an unusual calmness. Interesting. Get lost. I spat out just one word. Liam stammered. Kyro, I'm just talking to a classmate. I said, get lost. My voice dropped a few degrees colder. Or do you want me to help you talk with my fists? He trembled like a leaf, cast a resentful glance at Baek Sun, then bolted, not daring to look back. The space fell silent. I stepped closer, standing opposite her. A faint, pure orchid scent wafted from her, igniting my possessive desires even further. I expected her to thank me profusely, or at least recoil in fear. But no, Baek Sun simply looked up at me in silence, her dark eyes as deep as 2 bottomless lakes. After a moment, she subtly curved her lips, offering a faint smile. It wasn't gratitude nor fear, it was like a silent taunt. Thank you. Her voice was clear but devoid of any emotion. With that, she brushed past me, intending to leave. In that fleeting moment, I unconsciously reached out and grabbed her wrist. Soft and slender, it felt as though I could crush it with just a little more force. She paused, turning to look at me, her eyes showing no confusion, only a hint of suspicion. Your name? I asked, my voice hoarse. Baek Sun. Which class? 12A1, she replied, then gently pulled her hand free from mine. This time, I didn't stop her. Watching her small, yet unyielding back disappear behind the rose bushes, I unconsciously licked my lips. Baek Sun, 12A1. It turns out the exquisite toy I'd been searching for had presented itself. An arrogant princess hidden behind a facade of perfect vulnerability. The harder she tried to appear tough, the more I wanted to break her. I immediately went to the principal's office, using a bit of my family's influence to transfer to class 12A1. When I walked into the classroom with the homeroom teacher, the noisy class instantly fell silent. All eyes were on me, fear, respect, curiosity. But I only looked in one direction, the back corner of the room by the window, where Baek Sun sat, quietly reading. My appearance seemed to have no effect on her at all. The homeroom teacher cleared his throat, pointing to the only empty desk in the class. Kyro, you can sit there for now. I followed his gaze. From start to finish, she merely flipped through her book, took notes, occasionally propping her chin on her hand and staring out the window, her presence as delicate and detached as a watercolor painting. I sat right next to her, close enough to catch the faint scent in her hair, yet feeling as distant as a universe. This calmness wasn't feigned, it was an ingrained indifference. Damn it, this feeling was more irritating than being insulted directly. I began to feel restless. I hated being disregarded. My hand under the desk clenched and a dark thought surfaced. I wondered what would happen if I were to suddenly grasp that slender swan-like neck. Would those serene, autumn lake eyes ripple with a flicker of terror? The bell signaling the end of class rang, breaking my dangerous train of thought. As soon as the teacher stepped out, Zeke, one of my close subordinates, hurried over. He leaned close to my ear, his voice filled with worry. "Boss, why are you sitting here? This spot is cursed." I frowned. "Explain." Zeke glanced at Baek Sun, who was packing her books, and lowered his voice to a whisper. "The person who sat here before was the old class president, a total bookworm." After only 1 week of sitting next to them, he suddenly went crazy, screaming in class, and immediately asked for a transfer. The doctor said it was severe psychological overstimulation. My eyes narrowed, my interest growing deeper. "That's all?" "Not entirely," Zeke swallowed. "Even before that class president, there was a female student. She used to be very lively, but after being Baek Sun's deskmate for a while, she became depressed, mumbling to herself all day. Her family had to send her abroad for psychological treatment." I let out a faint, cold laugh. "Ah, so she's not a white rabbit after all, but a poisonous, man-eating flower. How increasingly fascinating." "Boss, you should really change seats," Zeke tried to continue. "Get back to your spot." I cut him off coldly. He recoiled, not daring to say another word, and shuffled away. By this time, Baek Sun had finished packing her books and stood up, ready to leave. Just as she passed me, I suddenly stretched out my leg. Baek Sun didn't look down, yet her steps halted precisely just before my foot. She lowered her head, her dark eyes staring intently at the tip of my shoe, then looked up directly into my eyes. For a second, I thought she'd be angry or at least frown, but no, the corner of her lips curved upwards, forming a smile that was both beautiful and eerie. "Long legs, no room to spare." Her voice was still clear as a spring, but the underlying meaning was as cold as ice. "If they're so superfluous, would you like me to help you break them off?" My whole body stiffened. The students around us, eavesdropping, turned pale with fear. Such words from a fragile, porcelain doll-like girl. Adrenaline began to surge through my veins. This feeling, yes, this was it. The feeling of finding a worthy opponent. I didn't retract my leg, instead I smirked. "Go on, try it." Our standoff lasted only a few seconds, but the tension was palpable. Finally, Baek Sun just let out a cold huff, gracefully stepped over my leg, and walked straight out the door. Her back remained as arrogant as ever. I sat back down, my mind buzzing with her smile and her words. Break my leg? From an orphan girl who the Liams had deigned to take in. I increasingly wanted to know what she was truly hiding behind that cold, arrogant facade. Throughout that day, I didn't provoke her anymore. I merely observed her in silence. I noticed that although she always seemed distant, everyone in class unconsciously kept their distance from her. She was like a solitary queen on her throne, beautiful and noble, yet no one dared to approach. After school, I didn't leave immediately, deliberately packing my bag slowly. Baek Sun put on her backpack and, as usual, walked straight out without a word of goodbye. I immediately followed. She didn't head towards the main gate but turned into a small, secluded path behind the school. This path led to the old warehouses, an ideal spot for some private conversation. I quickened my pace and in a few steps blocked her path. The narrow alley, with a moss-covered wall on one side and an iron fence on the other, left her cornered with nowhere to retreat. "Where are you rushing off to?" I leaned one hand against the wall, bending down, completely engulfing her in my space. The scent from her body once again assaulted my senses. Baek Sun looked up, her pristine face showing no hint of panic. "Get out of the way." "What if I don't?" I smirked, my finger gently brushing her smooth cheek. Her skin was icy cold, completely devoid of warmth. "Are you going to break my hand too?" I thought this action would provoke her, but I was wrong. Baek Sun suddenly reached out, lightning fast. Before I could even react, my wrist, which had been resting on the wall, was gripped by her. Her hand was small and cold, yet the grip was astonishingly strong. "Kyro," she called my name directly, her voice dropping, carrying an undeniable threat. "Who do you think you're playing with?" Immediately after, a sharp pain shot through my wrist. She was using some kind of technique to twist my joint. The searing pain made me instinctively want to pull my hand back, but I couldn't. I looked deep into her eyes. The dark pools were no longer serene but swirled with a hidden storm, both frenzied and vicious. In those eyes, I saw my own reflection. You! I could only manage one word. Don't use those cheap childish tricks on me anymore, she whispered close to my ear, her voice like a demon's. You're not my opponent, little boy. With that, she released my hand, giving a forceful push that made me stumble. Then she adjusted her collar and casually walked past me, leaving. I stood frozen in the alley, my wrists still throbbing with pain, but within me there was no anger, only an extreme exhilaration, a trembling thrill. A porcelain doll? No, she was a devil in an angel's disguise. Baek Sun, you succeeded. You have fully awakened the monster within me. The dull ache in my wrist didn't bother me. On the contrary, it was like a stimulant, making every cell in my body sing with excitement. I returned home, my mind replaying the image of Baek Sun's swirling eyes and her eerie warning. You're not my opponent, little boy. Little boy, how charming. For the first time in my 17 years, someone dared to call me that. Not a frail little rabbit, but an arrogant she-wolf in sheep's clothing. This toy was even more wonderful than I'd imagined. The hunting game had now transformed into a battle between two beasts. Whoever lets their guard down first will be torn to shreds. The next morning, I arrived at class in an unusually good mood. In my hand was a box of lobster dims, some from a 5-star restaurant, for which I'd woken my chef at 4 a.m. to prepare. This was the favorite of the rich girls in school. When I placed the exquisite box of food on Baek Sun's desk, the entire class held its breath once more. Their eyes looked at me as if I were a strange creature. Kyro, the great demon king, buying breakfast for a girl. Baek Sun looked up from her book, her indifferent eyes glancing at the dim sum box, then back at me. No surprise, no emotion, just unconcealed sarcasm. What's the meaning of this? I shrugged, pulled a chair over, and propped my chin in my hand, watching her meaningfully. A breakfast of love. My person certainly can't be left hungry. I deliberately emphasized the words, my person. Baek Sun let out a faint laugh, a beautiful but bone-chilling sound. She didn't touch the food box, merely picked up her backpack and stood. Hey, where are you going? I frowned. She didn't answer, walking straight to the empty desk in the front row, a spot no one ever dared to occupy. Then she went back to her old seat, calmly gathered her books, and leisurely moved to the new spot. The entire process was completed without a single glance in my direction. This action was clearly a blatant slap in the face in front of the entire class. Zeke and my other subordinates looked at me with worried expressions, afraid I'd erupt in anger and flip the desk. But I didn't. I just sat there, staring at her retreating back. The smile on my lips grew wider and wider. Run? Do you think you can run? My little princess, the more you try to escape me, the tighter my invisible chains will bind you. During lunch break, I didn't go looking for her immediately. I knew other prey had already set their own traps. My declaration yesterday had made Baek Sun a thorn in the side of many, especially the rich girls who had always considered me their target for conquest. Sure enough, as I leisurely strolled towards the girls' restroom in the old school building, I heard a quarrel echoing from inside. Baek Sun, don't pretend to be so virtuous. Do you think Kyro is serious about you? He's just playing with you, you orphan girl. This shrill voice belonged to Hannah, the school's beauty queen, who had been relentlessly pursuing me for a year. Exactly, look at your status. A stray dog picked up by the Liam family, and you think you can climb so high? I stood outside, arms crossed, leaning against the wall, in no hurry to interfere. I wanted to see how my devil would handle these annoying flies. I was admiring my masterpiece. She leaned close to Hannah's ear, her voice a sweet whisper, but the content sent shivers down one's spine. Next time you want to use that hand to hit someone, remember this feeling carefully. With that, she released Hannah. Hannah collapsed onto the floor, clutching her wrist, crying silently. It was then that Baek Sun turned around. When she saw me, the wildness in her eyes immediately vanished, replaced by coldness and wariness. She glanced at me, then at Hannah writhing on the ground. You see. Her voice was still utterly calm. I don't need anyone to protect me. With that, she brushed past me and walked out. As she passed, she paused briefly, leaned close to my ear, and repeated her morning phrase. My person, I can handle myself, you don't need to get involved. I stood frozen, watching her back disappear, a jolt of electricity running down my spine. It turned out she wasn't just a devil, she was a brilliant actress. That cold, arrogant exterior was just a mask. Her true face was the ferocity I just witnessed, a ferocity identical to my own. Madman meets madman. I burst out laughing, a hearty and exhilarated laugh. Baek Sun, you're wrong. The more you don't need it, the more I want to give it. This game, if there's no winner or loser, then let's drag this whole world down to hell together. The incident with Hannah was strangely suppressed very quickly. Her hand was diagnosed with a severe dislocation, requiring months in a cast, but the Hannah family, notorious for their arrogance, didn't make a fuss. The principal merely called Baek Sun in for a perfunctory talk and then dropped the matter. Everyone in school implicitly understood that I was behind it. They thought I used the Kyro family's power to silence the Hannah family, all to protect my person. Zeke even excitedly came to boast. Boss, I've already had someone remind Hannah's father. I guarantee he'll take a detour whenever he sees Baek Sun from now on. I just smiled faintly, offering no explanation. They didn't understand. I didn't do anything. It was Baek Sun herself, or the power behind her, that resolved everything. This only confirmed my suspicion. Her identity was not as simple as merely being the Liam family's adopted daughter. After that day, I stopped playing childish games like sending her breakfast or blocking her path. I still sat at my old desk, and she still sat at the front desk. Between us was the distance of an entire classroom. I didn't bother her. I simply observed, watching every action, every minute expression. I wanted to find a crack in her perfect facade. My actions plunged the entire class into extreme confusion. They couldn't understand why Kyro, the great demon king after staking his claim, had suddenly abandoned Baek Sun. Had he grown bored with his new toy? Baek Sun also noticed my change. Occasionally, I'd catch her eyes flicking towards me over her book, a cold, probing gaze. She was probably wondering what devilish scheme I was cooking up now. Yes, I was cooking up a scheme, but not one of trivial violence. I had people investigate Baek Sun. All the information I received was suspiciously clean. An orphan from a young age, raised in an orphanage, adopted 5 years ago by the Liam family out of compassion. Excellent academic records, no friends, nothing out of the ordinary. Too clean, that was the biggest anomaly. I didn't believe it. I shifted my investigation, no longer targeting her, but the Liam family, especially Liam, the spoiled brat I'd scared away on the first day. One afternoon, I cornered him in the parking lot. The moment he saw me, his face went pale and he stammered, Kyro, I haven't touched Baek Sun at all anymore." I slung an arm around his shoulder, pulling him into my car, a friendly smile on my lips but my eyes as cold as knives. "Relax, no fighting today. I just want to ask you a few things." I tossed him a folder of photos. They showed him secretly dealing with some shady characters. Liam's expression immediately shifted. "You investigated me. What do you want to know?" I tapped my fingers on the steering wheel. "What's your relationship with Baek Sun? Don't give me that cheap, caring older brother to adopted sister excuse." Liam swallowed hard, his eyes showing extreme fear and loathing when Baek Sun's name was mentioned. He hesitated for a moment, then, as if unable to bear it any longer, gritted his teeth and said, "She's not my sister, she's a devil." I raised an eyebrow, signaling him to continue. "That year, my parents didn't voluntarily adopt her. It was my grandfather. Before he died, he left a will, forcing my family to take her in and care for her until she turned 18. He panted as if recounting a nightmare. "Do you know? From the day she stepped foot in the Liam household, no one in the family had any peace. My father's business failed, my mother fell down the stairs and broke her leg, even my pet dog suddenly ran into the street and was hit by a car and died. Everyone says she's a jinx." "Interesting," I chuckled. "Just a coincidence, right?" "Coincidence?" Liam screamed. "Do you know why I had to confess to her? My mother forced me. She went to a fortune teller and the fortune teller said, as long as she becomes the Liam family's daughter-in-law, all bad luck will be dispelled. Damn it, forcing me to marry a monster." I looked deep into his eyes. "Monster?" Liam trembled, lowering his voice. "Once, I saw her alone in her room. She was talking to a picture. Her expression at that moment, I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. She was laughing and crying at the same time, her eyes both gentle and crazed. She said, 'I'm almost there. I'll make them all pay.' I was so scared I dropped a vase and she immediately turned to look at me. Her eyes, they looked exactly like she wanted to kill me. A crucial piece of the puzzle had emerged. Whose picture was it? I asked. I don't know, I didn't dare to look closely. I had what I needed. I opened the car door and casually said, "Thanks for your cooperation. If a single word of this gets out, you know the consequences." With that, I left Liam frozen in the car. That night, I hacked into the security camera system of the Liam family's mansion. I rewound all the recordings in Baek Sun's room. Most of the time, she simply read books or sat silently looking out the window, just like at school. But finally, I found it. Late one night, she took out an old wooden box from a drawer. Inside was a yellowed photograph. She clutched the photo to her chest, her usual cold expression vanishing, replaced by profound sorrow and tenderness. I zoomed in on the image, a woman, strikingly similar in appearance to Baek Sun, smiling while holding a baby. Just then, my phone vibrated. It was a message from an unknown number. Snooping on other people's things isn't a good habit, Kyro. My entire body froze. I immediately checked the system. There were no traces of intrusion. How did she know? Another message arrived. Want to know more? Old building rooftop. Alone. I let out a bloody laugh. Baek Sun, are you inviting me? All right then, let's see what kind of fun this devil of yours can bring me tonight. Old building rooftop. The night wind howled, carrying the cold, musty scent of abandoned classrooms. The faint moonlight, obscured by dark clouds, was barely enough to illuminate a slender figure standing at the edge of the rooftop, facing the vast emptiness below. Baek Sun. She wasn't wearing her uniform but a simple, pure black dress that accentuated her luminous white skin. Her long black hair whipped wildly in the wind. She stood there silently, like a statue, like a moth about to merge with the darkness. The dry crunch of my shoes on the cement echoed. She didn't turn around, as if she knew for sure I would come. So, did the great hacker Kyro, breaking into someone else's security system, have fun? Her voice no longer held its usual cold detachment, but was tinged with a lazy sarcasm. I stopped a few steps from her, arms crossed. Not as much fun as watching Baek Sun's drama. Playing the role of a bullied, weak princess must not feel bad at all. It was then that she slowly turned. Under the faint moonlight, the smile on her lips was hauntingly beautiful. Did you like that play? I can perform many more roles. Would you like to see? I'd prefer to see the real you. I took another step closer, my gaze fixed on her. Who is the person in the photo? Who are they you want to make pay? Baek Sun tilted her head slightly, her dark eyes in the dim night like two bottomless whirlpools. Kyro, are you always so curious about things that don't belong to you? Anything that catches my eye will sooner or later belong to me, I retorted, my voice full of domineering assurance. She laughed, a clear sound that sent chills down my spine. Belong to you? Do you even know who you're talking to? In a single second, her entire aura shifted. She was no longer the cold schoolgirl, nor the frenzied devil from the restroom. The person before me now was like a queen standing at the pinnacle, looking down at me, a mere mortal, with eyes that held both pity and disdain. You think you've investigated me? She slowly walked towards me. You had people follow me 3 times. The first was a small-time private detective whom I lost in 5 minutes. The second was 2 thugs. They're probably in the hospital now with conveniently broken legs. The third was a bit better, a well-known hacker, but unfortunately my firewall system isn't something he can touch. My whole body stiffened. Every one of my actions had been in her palm. You think you're the hunter and I'm the prey? She stopped right in front of me. We were so close I could clearly see my reflection in her eyes. Kyro, has it ever occurred to you that from the very first day you accidentally met me in the garden, you fell into my trap? My mind exploded. That encounter was planned by her? Impossible, I mumbled, but the confidence within me was already wavering. Why impossible? Baek Sun smirked. I needed a shield, someone at the top of the food chain in this school, a madman no one dared to touch. A Kyro family heir with enough power to cover up any trouble. Tell me, who else would be more suitable than you, Kyro? Everything began to piece together. My declaration of ownership, the Hannah family's silence, the fear of the entire school. Everything I thought I was bestowing upon her was actually what she needed and was exploiting. I wasn't the hunter, I was a foolish hunting dog being led by its master. Anger and humiliation flared within me. I reached out, gripping her slender chin tightly. You dared to play me? Baek Sun's eyes showed no fear. Instead, they gleamed with a hint of amusement. Playing you? I was evaluating you. She raised a hand and gently removed mine. And you didn't disappoint me. You're even crazier, more ruthless than I imagined. Very good. I took a step back, trying to maintain composure to analyze the situation. What's your goal? The Liam family? The Liam family? She scoffed. They're just a bunch of worms, just the first stepping stone. Kyro, this game is much bigger than you can imagine. She looked up at the moon, her distant gaze filled with boundless hatred. The person in the photo is my mother. She was murdered by a pack of beasts. Before she died, she gave me a list. The Liam family is only at the very bottom of that list. My heart instinctively clenched. I've waited 10 years, 10 years of living in hell, pretending to be a docile lamb, just waiting for the day of revenge. She turned back to me, her eyes burning. Now the time has come, but I'll be very tired doing it alone. The wind on the rooftop suddenly died down, the silence chilling. Baek Sun extended her hand towards me, her long, slender, pale hand, looking as if carved from jade under the moonlight. Kyro, you and I are the same kind of people. We are monsters in human skin, despised by this hypocritical world. Her voice was captivating, like the call of a demon. Instead of trying to destroy each other, why don't we cooperate? We'll overturn this chessboard together and make all those who committed crimes pay the bloodiest price. She was inviting me. Inviting me to walk a path of no return with her, inviting me to dance with hell. I stared at the hand hovering before me, then back at her burning eyes. The madness within me was screaming. This wasn't a trap. This was the most tempting invitation I had ever received. Baek Sun's hand still hung in the air, a pale and deadly invitation. Her eyes burned, reflecting my image and the monster screaming inside me. Cooperation. A crazy idea, yet strangely appealing. I didn't take her hand. Instead, I burst out laughing. A low, raspy laugh echoed in the dark night. Cooperation, I repeated, my voice mocking. Sounds more like a weakling's plea. Baek Sun, you play the queen very well, but don't forget you're still alone. The fire in her eyes flickered, but the smile on her lips didn't change. Is that so? And what about you, Kyro? You have a powerful family backing you, but what do? All day long, you wander around this high school bullying weaklings. Don't you find it boring? Every one of her words was like a needle pricking my arrogance. Kyro, you have power, but you have no purpose. You're like a loaded gun with no target, only able to fire wildly into the air to bury yourself. She took another step, her voice as enchanting as a slithering snake. But I have a long list of targets. I can give you purpose. I can give you a meaningful hunt. The madness within me roared. She's right. She understands me. In a flash, I lunged. Baek Sun seemed to have anticipated my move, but she didn't retreat. I grabbed her outstretched hand, pulling her forcefully into my embrace. My other arm wrapped tightly around her slender waist, pinning her against me. Baek Sun lost her balance, falling against my chest. Our faces were only inches apart. I could feel her cold breath on my face. The familiar orchid scent was now more intoxicating than ever, like a slow-acting poison seeping into my blood. You're right, I whispered, bending my head close to her ear, my voice cruel. I'm bored, I'm tired of playing with lambs. I felt her body stiffen slightly, but she made no move to struggle. All right, I accept your invitation, I continued, my lips almost touching her sensitive earlobe. I will join this game. I will help you get your revenge. I will overturn this hypocritical world with you. I paused for a moment, then my voice suddenly grew colder, and I tightened my grip on her waist. But there's one condition. In this game, only one person has the right to give orders, and that's me. You provide the list, I decide how to play. Every action must go through my permission. Can you do that, partner? I deliberately emphasized the last word. I didn't need an equal ally. I needed the sharpest weapon, and I had to be the one wielding it. The space fell silent, only the whistling of the wind audible. I looked directly into Baek Sun's dark eyes. They held no fear or hesitation, only a cold calculation and a strange gleam. After a long moment, she suddenly smiled, a radiant and more genuine smile than any I had ever seen from her. She responded simply, without a hint of hesitation, "As you command." Her decisive answer once again defied my expectations. I had expected her to bargain. "Aren't you afraid I'll devour you?" I narrowed my eyes. "If you have the capability," Baek Sun shrugged, her expression nonchalant. "But Kyro, don't forget, too much poison can kill the one who drinks it too." The two monsters looked at each other, implicitly understanding each other's intentions. We weren't partners. We were two beasts temporarily at a truce to tear apart weaker prey together before turning back to devour each other. "Then," I murmured, a satisfied smile playing on my lips, "the pact is formed." I slowly loosened my grip, but just as she tried to pull away, I suddenly bent down. My lips covered hers. It wasn't a gentle kiss, but a possessive, sealing, cold, brutal kiss carrying the taste of blood and destruction. Her lips were as cold as ice, yet impossibly soft. Baek Sun froze for a split second, then closed her eyes, offering no resistance, no reciprocation, simply accepting. I pulled away from her lips, lightly licking the trace of blood I had caused. "This is the seal. From now on, Baek Sun, you are mine. Everything about you, including this revenge, belongs to me." She opened her eyes, dark and fathomless. She raised a hand, gently touching her slightly swollen, reddened lips. "Then, my master, who is our first prey?" Her tone was sarcastic, yet strangely obedient. The contrast thrilled me immensely. I laughed. It's still early. A good play needs a spectacular prelude. Aren't the Liams hosting their 50th company anniversary party soon? Shouldn't we prepare a grand gift to celebrate with them? Baek Sun looked at me, a flicker of understanding in her eyes. A gift that will ruin them completely. Ruin them completely? That's too gentle. I shook my head, my smile growing more sinister. I want them to fall straight from heaven into the 18th level of hell. After that night, the relationship between Baek Sun and me became incredibly strange. To outsiders, we seemed to have returned to square one. I no longer played childish games to gain her attention. She still sat at the front desk, as aloof as a snow queen. Kyro, the great demon king, seemed to have tired of his new toy, and the orphan princess finally had peace. The entire school breathed a sigh of relief. They didn't know that beneath the tranquil surface of the lake, an undertow was about to engulf everything. On Monday morning, as I walked into class, I saw a sight that stunned everyone. Baek Sun had moved her belongings back to her old seat, right beside me. She sat there, calmly reading as if nothing had ever happened. Zeke's jaw dropped and he stammered, Baek Sun, why are you sitting here?" Baek Sun turned a page in her book, not even bothering to look up, her voice indifferent. "The front desk is too sunny, too dazzling." A perfectly reasonable yet utterly provocative excuse. The entire class fell silent. She was openly declaring to everyone that I hadn't forced her. She had chosen to sit here herself. The positions of prey and hunter had been subtly reversed. I sat down without a word, just offering a faint smile. "My princess, you truly never disappoint me." During the break, I didn't have to go looking for her anymore. She herself placed a small metal USB drive on my desk. "Everything you need is in here." With that, she buried herself back in her book, treating me as if I didn't exist. I picked up the USB drive, feeling the coldness transfer to my palm. I knew what was inside: ammunition, all the dirty secrets of the Liam family she had collected over 5 years. That night, I plugged the USB into my computer. The screen displayed countless professionally encrypted files. It took me nearly an hour to break through the first firewall. The contents made even me frown. Money laundering contracts, evidence of tax evasion. Videos of director Liam's affair with his secretary, fake medical records to avoid Liam Jr.'s military service. Everything was meticulously organized, detailed down to the day and hour. "Baek Sun, you're not a lamb, you're a spy embedded in the Liam family. You turned 5 years of living under their roof into a perfect intelligence-gathering operation." But what caught my attention the most was a file named Special Gift. Inside was a series of photos and videos showing Mr. Liam, the group chairman, secretly meeting with another woman and a private son, about 6 or 7 years old. Address, fake birth certificate, secret bank account used for child support, everything was there. This was the ace up our sleeve, a nuclear bomb that could completely destroy the Liam family's reputation and fortune. I called Zeke. "Investigate a woman named Serena and a boy named Leo. Cross-reference the boy's DNA with the old man from the Liam family. Get me the results within 3 days." "Yes, boss." Everything happened faster than I expected. The Kyro family had a professional team for these kinds of things. 2 days later, a detailed report lay on my desk. Leo was 100% confirmed as Chairman Liam's illegitimate son. I smiled in satisfaction. Everything was ready. All that was missing was a grand stage. The next day, Baek Sun and I went to the rooftop, the place where we had made our pact. She still stood at the edge, the wind whipping her long black hair around her. "I received the gift you sent me," I said, standing beside her. "Quite spectacular." "So, what's your plan?" she asked directly. "The Liam Corporation's 50th anniversary party," I smirked. What better place to screen a truly spectacular family drama? Baek Sun remained silent, her gaze distant, fixed on the bustling city. I knew what she was thinking. She had waited for this day for far too long. I unexpectedly reached out and gently brushed a strand of wind-blown hair from her cheek. "Don't let hatred consume you. You are my weapon. A weapon must be without emotion." Her hand clenched. After a long moment, she turned to look at me, her dark eyes fathomless. "Kyro, do you think I still have such a thing left to be consumed by?" The coldness in her voice sent a shiver down even my spine. Just then, my phone vibrated. It was my mother calling. "Kyro, the Liam family's party is this weekend. Will you come with me? After all, our families have been longtime partners." I glanced at Baek Sun, a devilish smile appearing on my face. I put the call on speaker. Mom, I'm not going alone. I want to bring my girlfriend. The other end of the line was silent for a few seconds, then my mother's joyful voice exclaimed, "Really? You have a girlfriend? That's wonderful. What's her name? Where does she live?" I looked straight into Baek Sun's eyes, enunciating each word slowly. "Her name is Baek Sun. She's the Liam family's adopted daughter." I could clearly see the surprise flash in her eyes. She hadn't expected me to play such a bold move. My mother on the other end was also stunned. The Liam family's adopted daughter. "Kyro, don't joke." "I'm not joking," I interrupted. "That's how it is, Mom. I'll bring her to meet you this weekend." With that, I hung up, giving my mother no chance to object. I turned back to Baek Sun. She was still staring at me, her gaze complex. "What do you think?" I raised an eyebrow. As the Kyro heir's girlfriend, wouldn't it be much more interesting to officially walk into the party and watch the drama we directed ourselves? Baek Sun looked at me for a long moment, then suddenly burst out laughing. Her smile under the sunset was heartbreakingly beautiful, yet deadly dangerous. "Kyro, you truly are a born bastard." "Thanks for the compliment." I bent down and whispered in her ear. "Then, girlfriend, I look forward to your company this weekend." That weekend, I personally drove to the Liam family mansion. This was my first time setting foot in this place, a lavish, yet hollow, golden cage. Mr. and Mrs. Liam and even Liam himself were already waiting at the door for me. Their faces were plastered with fake smiles, but the tension and fear in their eyes couldn't be concealed. "Young Master Kyro, you've arrived. What an honor," Mrs. Liam greeted effusively. I didn't spare her a glance, my eyes sweeping around the living room. "Where's Baek Sun?" Mrs. Liam's expression stiffened slightly. "Ah, the child is getting ready upstairs." "Young Master Kyro, please sit and have some tea while you wait." "No need," I said coldly. "I don't have a habit of waiting." With that, I walked straight upstairs, ignoring the three Liams standing frozen like statues behind me. I knew her room. I had rewatched the camera footage last night, just to make sure she wasn't playing any tricks behind my back. I didn't knock. I simply pushed the door open and walked in. Baek Sun was standing in front of the mirror, still in her school uniform. She turned at the sound, showing no surprise upon seeing me. "You're here? Are you planning to wear that to the party?" I raised an eyebrow, my gaze sweeping her from head to toe. "Didn't you say I was just your weapon?" she replied calmly. "What does a weapon need makeup for?" I chuckled, walking closer, and lifted her chin. "Wrong. My weapon must be the most dazzling and deadly weapon, one that makes everyone both desire and fear it at first sight." I tossed a gift box onto the bed. "Chain." "I'll give you 10 minutes." I turned and walked out, slamming the door shut. 10 minutes later, the door opened, and my entire body felt as if it had been struck by lightning. Baek Sun emerged, no longer the cold schoolgirl, but a true queen of the night. She wore a deep crimson evening gown, the color of blood, with an off-the-shoulder design that highlighted her pristine white shoulders and delicate collarbones. The dress clung to her body, accentuating her perfect curves, and her long black hair was loosely styled, revealing her proudly arched neck. Her face was not elaborately made up, only her lips were painted a luscious red, matching the dress, which further emphasized her snow-white skin. Her dark eyes met mine without a ripple, yet possessed a mesmerizing allure that made it impossible to look away. "Is this acceptable, my master?" she asked, a faint smirk playing on her lips. I took a deep breath, trying to control the turmoil in my chest. I stepped forward and opened another velvet box. Inside was a platinum necklace. The pendant was a teardrop-shaped black diamond, named Devil's Tear. I went behind her and fastened the necklace around her pale neck. The coldness of the metal and my fingertips touching her skin made her subtly shiver. I leaned down and whispered in her ear, my voice laced with unconcealed possessiveness. "Remember, Baek Sun, tonight you are only allowed to shine for me." I felt the corner of her lips curve upwards. "And what if I accidentally burn you down too? Then we'll go to hell together." The Liam family's party was held at the city's largest 5-star hotel. As I walked into the grand ballroom with Baek Sun on my arm, the noisy space instantly fell silent. Hundreds of eyes turned towards us, astonishment, curiosity, envy, and fear. They were astonished because the adopted daughter, always treated like heir by the Liam family, who had never appeared at any party, was tonight resplendent like a princess. They were fearful because that princess was walking beside Kyro, the devil no one dared to provoke. Mr. and Mrs. Liam, who were greeting guests, saw us, and the smiles on their faces instantly froze. They hurried over, Mr. Liam's voice trembling slightly. "Young Master Kyro, Baek Sun, why are you?" I gently squeezed Baek Sun's waist, pulling her closer, and declared possessively, "From today onwards she is my girlfriend. Uncle Liam, Aunt Liam, do either of you have any objections? And no, none at all, they stammered, their faces pale. I smiled contentedly, leaning close to Mr. Liam's ear, my voice just loud enough for the two of us to hear. I heard Uncle Liam has a special gift hidden away. I'm very curious. I wonder if I'll get to see it tonight. Mr. Liam's entire body trembled violently, cold sweat breaking out on his forehead. He looked at me as if I were a monster. I led Baek Sun around, greeting guests, essentially parading my trophy. Wherever we went, we were the center of attention. Baek Sun maintained her aloof expression, but I knew she was savoring the feeling of standing at the pinnacle, looking down with pity on those who had once scorned her. Exactly at 8 o'clock, the lights in the ballroom dimmed and everyone turned towards the stage. Mr. Liam, in an expensive suit, tried to maintain his composure as he stepped onto the podium, beginning his speech celebrating the corporation's 50th anniversary. Ladies and gentlemen, Baek Sun and I stood in a secluded corner holding glasses of red wine. I glanced at her. Nervous? It's just a play, she shrugged, taking a sip of wine. I smiled. Indeed, just a play. But a play we directed ourselves. On stage, Mr. Liam was still rambling on about the corporation's glorious history, business ethics, and family happiness. How ridiculous. I glanced at my watch. It was time. I signaled to Zeke, who was mingling in the crowd. He nodded and quietly slipped away. Just as Mr. Liam finished speaking, amidst thunderous applause, the giant LED screen behind him, which had been displaying the corporate logo, suddenly flickered off. The entire hall buzzed with murmurs. A few seconds later, the screen lit up again, but what appeared was not the logo, but a video. The video was shot in a luxurious bedroom. Mr. Liam, who had just spoken of family happiness, was shown in full HD, intimately embracing a beautiful young woman. The entire hall erupted in chaos, shouts, whispers, camera shutters clicking incessantly. Mrs. Liam, standing below the stage, turned ashen and collapsed to the floor. Liam was stunned, unable to believe his eyes, but that wasn't all. The video ended and the screen switched to an image of a boy around 6 or 7 years old playing in a garden, next to a DNA test report confirming a father-son relationship. Mr. Liam stood on stage, trembling all over, pointing at the screen, stammering incoherently. No, it's not. Who did this? I took a sip of wine and chuckled softly. I turned to look at Baek Sun. Under the chaotic stage lights, her eyes shone brightly, the corners of her lips curving into a beautiful smileless smile of satisfaction at witnessing an enemy's destruction. How do you like this gift? I whispered. She didn't answer, simply tilted her head back and drained the glass of red wine in her hand, as if drinking the enemy's blood. The entire ballroom descended into pandemonium. Mrs. Liam's screams, Mr. Liam's frantic shouts, Liam's curses, and above all, the incessant flashing of camera lights. The reporters, like a pack of hungry vultures, surged towards the stage to tear apart their dying prey. The play had reached its climax, a perfect ending. I tossed my empty wine glass into a corner and grabbed Baek Sun's hand. Let's go. She seemed to still be immersed in the intoxicating rush of revenge, her eyes fixed on the stage where the Liam family was being engulfed in shame. I had to use a little force to pull her gaze back to mine. My actress? I leaned close to her ear, my voice tinged with a playful seductiveness. The play is over. Time to collect your reward. I didn't wait for her reply, simply gripped her hand tightly and pulled her away. My bodyguards had cleared a bloody path through the chaotic crowd. Everyone automatically parted, no one daring to block young Master Kyro's way. We left the hotel under hundreds of shocked and curious eyes, like the king and queen of hell returning from inspecting their dominion. Inside the car, the silence was chilling, a stark contrast to the chaos we had just left behind. Baek Sun sat motionless in the passenger seat, gazing out the window. The streetlights flickered across her face, making her expression impossible to discern. She wasn't jubilant as I had expected. She was too still. This stillness unsettled the monster within me. I suddenly swerved, the sports car's tires screeching as it pulled over onto a deserted riverside road. I turned off the engine. What's wrong? Baek Sun finally spoke, her voice hoarse. I didn't reply. I leaned across, one arm braced against her door, the other gripping her delicate chin, forcing her to face me. Aren't you happy? I stared into her deep black eyes. Your enemies are ruined. The Liam family will be the laughingstock of the city from tonight onwards. Isn't this what you've waited 5 years for? Baek Sun looked at me in silence. Under the dim moonlight, I saw not satisfaction in her eyes, but a terrifying emptiness. It was as if, after the fire of hatred had burned out, only cold ashes remained. "Do you think that's enough?" she suddenly asked, her voice laced with ultimate sarcasm. I frowned. "What do you mean? Ruined completely?" She scoffed, a mournful laugh. "Kyro, you're too naive. Do you think destroying their reputation is enough to appease my anger? Do you think the pain I've endured for 10 years can be erased by a cheap video?" My heart tightened slightly. 10 years, not 5. A blood debt. Baek Sun leaned closer, her cold breath ghosting over my face, each word uttered as if crushed from hell itself, must be paid with blood. For a moment, I saw pure madness in her eyes, a madness even darker and more terrifying than my own. I said nothing, only bent down and used my lips to silence her bitter words. This wasn't a kiss, it was a battle, a war between two monsters trying to devour each other's souls. We tore at each other as if wanting to unleash all our madness, all our pain onto the other. When both of us were utterly exhausted, I finally released her. We panted, foreheads resting against each other. The blood-red evening gown on her body was disheveled, revealing a long, faded scar on her shoulder. I unconsciously reached out and gently touched it. "This." Baek Sun subtly trembled but didn't flinch. "That was a gift from Mrs. Liam. When I was 10, I accidentally broke her beloved vase." My chest felt as if a heavy stone was pressing down on it. "They didn't just kill my parents," she continued, her voice now calm, but the coldness within it was more terrifying than her earlier madness. "For 5 years living there, I was nothing more than a dog. They tortured me, humiliated me, tried to break all my pride. They wanted to turn me into a soulless, obedient doll." She looked up directly into my eyes. "But they failed. The more pain I endured, the clearer I became. I memorized every debt, every scar. I swore I would make them pay 100, 1,000 times over." Now I understood. Tonight's drama, as she said, was merely a prelude. "So, what's next?" I asked, my voice deep and hoarse. "What do you want me to do?" Baek Sun looked at me for a long moment, then suddenly reached out, embracing my neck and pulling me closer. She initiated the kiss, a gentle kiss, yet one that held a deadly allure. "Kyro," she whispered, her luscious red lips almost touching mine. "Do you want to see some real fireworks?" Before I could grasp her meaning, Zeke's phone call came through, his voice utterly frantic. "Boss, it's bad. The Liam mansion is on fire. They say someone's trapped inside." I froze, turning to look at Baek Sun. She was still smiling at me, the smile of a fallen angel. In her dark eyes, the fiery glow from the distance was reflected. I told you," she gently interrupted, her finger lightly tracing my lips. "A blood debt must be paid with blood." I hung up. The car was filled with a deathly silence. In my ears still rang Zeke's panic shouts and the distant wail of fire truck sirens. But all those sounds faded compared to the smile of the girl before me. Baek Sun maintained that pose, her finger lightly tracing my lips, her dark eyes reflecting the firelight, demonically beautiful. She had no intention of explaining. She was waiting to see how the monster in me would react. A flicker of anger sparked within me, not because she had committed arson and murder, but because she had acted without my permission. She had broken our pact. "Did you forget my condition?" I growled, my hand clenching the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. "Every action must go through me." Baek Sun tilted her head slightly, the smile on her lips growing more sarcastic. "Kyro, don't you understand yet? That pact never existed in the first place." She slowly pulled her hand back, her eyes sharp as knives. "You wanted a weapon, an obedient puppet, but what you found was another devil. Devils never bow down to anyone." My anger flared. "You're angry because I didn't listen?" She interrupted me, her voice bone-chilling. "Or are you angry because you realize that the prey you thought you had securely in your grasp is a hunter even more ruthless than you?" Every one of her words was a hammer blow straight to my ego. Yes, I wasn't angry. I was afraid. For the first time in my life, I felt fear. Fear that I couldn't control her. Fear that this devil would devour even me. But immediately after that fear came an extreme exhilaration, a frenzied excitement. This was her. This was the real Baek Sun. Not the weak princess, not the vengeful queen, but an abyss of destruction, a storm of madness. And I couldn't resist the urge to jump into that abyss. I suddenly burst out laughing, a low, hoarse laugh echoing in the silent space. Baek Sun looked at me, a hint of surprise in her eyes. "You're right." I stopped laughing, turning to look directly into her eyes, my gaze burning. "I don't need a puppet, I have too many of those already." I reached out and gently wiped away the trace of blood still lingering on the corner of her lips from our earlier wild kiss. I need a queen, someone who can stand with me at the peak of hell, looking down on this hypocritical world. I picked up my phone and dialed a familiar number. The other end quickly picked up, a calm, deep voice responding. Kyro. It was my father, the head of the Kyro family. Dad, my voice was unusually calm, help me clean up some trash. The Liam family mansion, don't leave any traces, I don't want the police bothering my girlfriend. The other end was silent for a few seconds. My father knew perfectly well what clean up meant. He only asked 2 words. The reason? I glanced at Baek Sun. She was looking at me, a complex emotion gleaming in her deep black eyes. Because of her, I replied, my voice firm and deserving, a sigh. All right, just this once. The call ended. I tossed my phone aside and turned back to face my queen. Well, I smirked. Your fireworks show, I've already taken care of the aftermath. What will you reward me with? Baek Sun looked at me for a long moment, the coldness and wariness in her eyes slowly fading, replaced by something deeper, hotter. She said nothing, only leaned over and actively pressed her lips against mine. This time, it was no longer possessiveness, nor a battle, but acceptance. A fusion of 2 dark souls. She pulled away from my lips, resting her forehead against mine. Kyro. This world will be very boring from now on. I laughed, gripping her cold hand tightly. It's all right. If this world is boring, we'll create a new one together. A kingdom just for the 2 of us, where madmen like us can dance freely. I started the car, turning it around and speeding into the night. Behind us, the fire from the Liam mansion still blazed, like a gigantic spider lily blooming in the darkness, burying all sins and the past. It was a sacrifice for the birth of a new kingdom, the kingdom of devils.